Hi class, this is FF243 Digital Flats and Specs. Today we're going to learn how to measure a skort. Okay, we're going to start off with the waist measurement. Make sure that the waist is even on top when you go across and flattened. So just measure straight across at the edge, all the way around here. And it's 14, you double it because it's woven, so it's 28 inches. So 28 inch for the waist. High hip measurement, so we're going to come down here. We'll do on this one because kids will do 6 inches. Measure out 6 inches from the top of the waistband down. Put a pin, and also from the back of the waistband down for 6 inches. Okay. From side to the center, and then back out to the side. So it's actually 16.5, so double it, it'll be 33 inches. Now we're going to do the sweep of the skirt, so just flatten it out and go right here along the edge from side seam to side seam. It's 18.5, so it's 37 inches for the sweep. Now because this doesn't have an inseam or anything, we're going to put skirt length. So from center back down, we're going to put the skirt length, which is going to be 13 3/4 of an inch for the skirt length. So the only other measurement we have to put inside the tech pack is the functional zipper length. Again, you're going to just make sure it's zipped up, and you're going to only measure the length of the zipper inside that actually functions. So go inside the fly, go right here to where it actually ends, the zipper top, and it's 3 1/4 inches. So put down 3 1/4 inches for zipper functional length. Actually, you can do fly functional length also, which is actually from the top of the waistband down. This is fly length. So you can actually do that. Just measure from the top of the stitching to the top of the waistband, and that is 5 1/8 of an inch. 5 1/8 of an inch. So now these are the only points that you have to do within the tech pack. Now all the rest of the points of measure that you need to do are going to be on the outside of the tech pack. So I need you to sketch it correctly, everything that you see, all the details of the stitching, the position of the pockets. Look very careful at the garment, that you have everything in the place that it should be. So all the rest of the measurements are going to be on the actual sketch page. For the front, I'm going to have you do this cargo pocket. Okay, that's going to be the sketch detail at the bottom underneath the front. So you're going to actually do this cargo pocket. So let's start with measuring some of the things on top here. Okay, we have to indicate that this is actually a binding that's going around the top of the skirt. Okay, so we have to indicate the width of the binding. So we're going to measure the binding, and that's 3/8 of an inch wide. So you indicate with the arrow 3/8 of an inch wide binding. When you are sketching this out, you have to do the zigzag stitching. So you're going to indicate zigzag stitch and binding stitch. Okay, so here you're going to point an arrow and say zigzag stitch, and then here you're going to indicate edge stitch for the edge of the binding. The other thing I would like you to do also is do a little mock-up detail of just this binding, about this much. Blow it up and put it down here so they can see exactly the way the stitching is supposed to look on the binding, because you have it here and you have it around the pocket. So you want to show them in a big piece at the bottom what the stitching is going to look like. And also, the belt loop. Notice too how the belt loop looks with the stitching and everything. You're going to blow that up down here too. So you're going to have the binding, the belt loop, and this a cargo pocket at the bottom of the skirt for details. Okay. So the binding, you can actually make a arrow with 3/8 inch binding, and you can also point here at the pocket with the arrow also, so that we know that both of these areas are the same thing. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the waistband width. Okay, now the waistband width, it's a little hard to figure this out, but it's going to be from the bottom of this stitch all the way to the edge of the binding. So just measure from here to the edge, which is 1.5 inches. On the outside sketch, we're going to just do the width to the outside of the stitching. So you do it from the edge of the fly to the last stitching on the edge, and that is 1 3/8 of an inch wide. So you're going to put an arrow 1 3/8 of an inch to indicate the width of the fly. So we're going to measure right underneath the waistband stitching to the edge of the pocket where it is to the actual side seam. So that is 3 3/8 of an inch, 3 3/8 of an inch there. Then we're going to measure from the top of the binding here to right at the waistband stitch here, and that's 3 3/4 of an inch stitching. Okay. Now the other stitching we have to do, because this is actually the pocket ends right here, inside here, we have to put that information here. And notice the look of this pocket. So be careful when you're drawing it that you get the same look. Okay, it's very important. So we're going to just measure straight down to the bottom of the waist band, straight down to the actual lower stitching, and that is 6 1/4 inches. Okay, 6 1/4 inches. Now we're going to do the widest point of the pocket across, and this is going to be 5 1/2 inches. So you're going to have an arrow here, 5 1/2 inches. So now you have the length and the width of this pocket. Just remember also you have a seam going straight down the front all the way down. Make sure that is, and it has an edge stitch, which you're going to also have to indicate that's edge stitch. This one also you need to put 1/4 inch double needle stitch for the fly, and make sure you put the double stitching there also. And this also too at the waistband is 1/4 inch double needle stitching. So here, you can just put arrows indicating it together and just say it once. So we're going to have to give a measurement from the center front, from the bottom edge of the skirt to the edge of the yoke. That's 2 inches. So you want to indicate 2 inches there. Now this one's hard because the pocket is actually over it, but just you have to turn it inside out, and you can see the width of the yoke on the side. So again, you're going to want to do it from the very bottom edge to the edge of the stitching, and that's 3 inches. So you're going to do 3 inches right here. It can do 3-inch yoke. Well, the other thing you have to indicate here is same thing. Well, this one you have to point to. You can point to it to the other one up here is the 1/4 inch double needle, because that's on there. And then the hem actually is 3/4 of an inch double needle. So just right down here, put an arrow and put 3/4 of an inch double needle. Now we'll do the cargo pocket. Okay. Now the cargo pocket, that's the other detail I want down here. Now notice it has an inset here that makes it into a cargo pocket. Cargo pocket, you're able to put a whole bunch of different things in, and it always has like flanges, and that's why it's called a cargo pocket, in order to make it bigger, to put more things in it. So you're going to have to indicate that. Draw it so you can see like a little bit of the flange sticking out on the edge. Okay? So you're going to draw it that has a little bit excess here going up. Then you have this straight pocket area with the edge stitch. Okay? And then you're going to stitch it like this. Make sure that you put the lace in here. It's a little piece of lace that's gathered in here. You have to put that in, and make sure that you put the stitching here and here, 1/4 inch top stitch. It goes all the way around here. And a buttonhole and a button. You don't have to put this little label. That's okay. But you do have to indicate all those different areas. Okay. So the measurement of the flap, we're going to go not from the lace, but just the actual flap part of it. Okay, because the lace could be any kind of width. You don't know what it might be in the end. So you're just going to measure here. It's 5 1/4 inches wide. And from the point up to the edge, it's 2 1/4 inches. Now note it goes to a point, but just slightly. And we're also going to put a measurement here on the side because it is a square type of thing. And from the edge of the side of the flap up, it's 1 3/4 of an inch. So right here is 1 3/4 of an inch. Now we're going to measure this pocket. This one, because it has so much stuff, we're going to just measure the pocket of this. Okay. So we're going to measure down the center from the stitching edge up is 5 inches. The top of the pocket is 4 3/4 of an inch. Don't forget, this is smaller than this so that it doesn't stick out when you're actually have the flap on top of it. So it's always about 1/4 inch smaller, this part to the flap. Okay, and then even though it's square, let's just make sure that it is square and put 4 3/4 of an inch at the bottom also. So 4 3/4, 4 3/4, and then what did I say? The 5 inch. Okay. Now, just with the pointing of the arrow, you're going to indicate that flange of cargo pocket is, let's measure it, is 1 inch wide. Also, you'll want to put like indicate there's bar tacks here inside the pocket and also on the flap. So you want to point here and underneath there that there's bar tacks. Again, because when you put your hand in it, it won't rip. Okay. Then you want to indicate also where it's located from the edge of the garment. You want to do the bottom part here. It's actually 1 inch from the edge. So you want to indicate pocket starts 1 inch from edge. So now in the back, we have an actual yoke at the top. So we're going to measure the side seam of the yoke here to the bottom of the stitching of the waistband, and that's 1 1/2 inches. Then right here, the center back to the edge of the stitching is 2 inches. Again, you're going to point arrows to here, 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 and indicate 1/4 inch double needle. Okay, DN. Now the loops. Again, you have to indicate that they're bar tacked. Okay, otherwise they won't put bar tacking. So indicate they're bar tacked all over, and you're going to put the length times the width. So the length is 2 1/4 inches, and the width is 5/8 of an inch. So 2 1/4 times 5/8 of an inch for the loops, belt loops. Notice the stitching. It has like a double needle down, and then it has zigzag in the middle. That's why I want you to have a detail of it on the bottom, blown up big, so they can see what exactly the belt loop looks like. And don't forget to add the bar tacks in that picture also, so that they indicate it's bar tacked. Okay. Notice the placement of the belt loops on the garment. Notice that the belt loops only go up underneath the binding. It doesn't go up over the binding, around. It starts right underneath the binding. Okay, that's important. If you don't indicate where it's the correct place that they're going to put the belt loops, they'll probably start it at the very top like they usually do, but this case is a design feature. They're starting it right below. Now this one is also a hip measurement. This one I would put as far as the position of the front and back. I would put here 1 1/2 inch drop front and 1 inch drop back for the drops. Now we have to go to the skort part inside. The measurements that we want to give are the side seam. So you're gonna actually draw like the skort part, okay, of this, like this, okay. Now the skort part from the sides are going to be 8 1/2 inches, okay. The front crotch, from the crotch up, the seam is 4 inches in the front, and then in the back, it's going to be from the edge all the way up underneath here to the seam is 11 inches. And then the other measurement that you want to give is the leg opening. So you're just going to measure right straight across from here to here, 9 inches. Okay, again, this is knit, so it's single measurements, and then that's it with that. Okay. So we're done with the skort. So any questions or anything, let me know. Review the tape over and over to know exactly where the measurements should be. And again, just follow exactly what the skirt looks like, the exact placement of the stitching. I put all the stitching indicated, and we're done with the skort. Thanks.